What's up, bozos? This is Trevor Outlaw, but you can address me as yours rudely. And you're listening to the Sit Down Marks podcast with DB, Primo, and AJ.
Hey, yo. If I can be serious for a minute. Oh, yeah. Acknowledge me.
What's going on, everybody out there? Welcome. Come on in. Sit down, Marks Mafia. It's episode number 163 of the flagship Sit Down Marks podcast. Welcome, everybody. It's going to be a fun topic today because we're going to be talking historic wrestling venues. You know, you got a favorite one, and we're going to be talking about them later on. And also, we're going to be talking about Money in the Bank reactions. We're going to be talking a little Dreamwave, and we got a big announcement coming up about Dreamwave and your boys, the Sit Down Marks podcast coming up if you haven't paid attention. But with me, as always, here we go. Let's kick this thing off on the East Coast. You know, the host with the most, Lucha Daddy, my man, Primo.
Hey,
what's up, brother?
What is going on? Not a whole lot. I tell you what, I said all weekend I wasn't going to carry this heavy-ass ice chest that my wife needed packed away. Guess what I did this morning? I picked that sumbitch up, and
did.
I've been feeling it all day.
So it's time to sit down and talk because you're kind of worn out, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And he's the most traveled Midwest wrestling professional fan there is. Wait a minute, I said that wrong. The Midwest professional wrestling fan there is. You know him as Dylan. We call him El Sombrero Verde. What's going on, Dylan? Welcome, buddy. Good to see you.
What's up, boys? DB, feel like I just saw you the other day. You know, we're over here vibing and thriving. You know what? I did not have to carry a big, heavy ice chest for my wife because that is the perks of being single. The perks of being single, guys.
Yeah, happy not Father's Day from
exactly.
a couple days ago. So there's still some smart ones in the world.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, me and the boys here today. We're going to talk a little wrestling with you. Thank you guys so much for joining us on YouTube and Facebook. And thank you guys so much for listening on Apple, Spotify, SportsWire Radio, Audible, iHeartRadio, all those podcast platforms
all the places
out there. And in case you didn't know, we got a website now, sitdownmarks.com. Yeah, well, you know, it's under construction, but it will take you where you need to go to watch everything that's going on with the Sit Down Marks. So go sitdownmarks.com. Go over and give us a follow, subscription. We really appreciate it. All right, boys, if you're ready, man, let's kick this thing off. Hot start time. 5 topics in the world of pro wrestling. Topic number 1, boys. It's kind of been the talk in wrestling lately. So did you like the R-Truth, Ron Killing swerve? You know, they either makeshift really cut him and then really hired him back, or kayfabe cut him, you know, and then hired him back, and now he's Ron Killings. But did you like that whole segue or swerve, I guess?
Two things, yes.
Go ahead.
Number 1, yes, but 2 things about that. One of those 2 things happened, right? So if they swerved us, then guess what? We got to be fans and we got.
Right.
If they didn't swerve us, then guess what? Fans have a voice and they listen to us. So
fair. Yeah. I kind of like which I really don't want to know, honestly. Just leave it what it is. But right. I like either one of those. Yeah, I like either one of those. What about you, Dylan?
Yeah, I liked it. We'll get more into it, I'm sure. But him showing up in the main event at Money in the Bank was quite the surprise. It was like, oh wait, okay, he's already back, because it was just like a week ago he was gone. I'm in the same boat you guys are. I don't want to know. I think we know too much, which is odd to say when you're on a podcast talking about all of it.
I agree.
But I think we know too much about what's going on now.
Right.
And I still feel the same way about the WWE TKO business side of it as I did last time we talked. I'm not, just forgiving them and, hey, everything's great and wonderful.
Right.
Shout out Christian. But yeah, he's back. Let's just focus on that part and be happy with that.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. Something you said there. We've been doing this podcast for over 4 years now, and even before that, I read dirt sheets, but even more so since I've had a podcast. So it's like I always feel like I'm deep in the weeds, and I don't always get to be like a surprised fan or not.
Sure.
And I like that. I like being able to be a fan. So like I said, I don't want to know,
Right.
but I do also agree. At the end of the day, the the parent company, is still a number crunching business. Like that's
Right.
still,
Yeah.
Very true. All right. Topic number 2, boys. So, I mean, we got to talk about, maybe specifically, what we liked, but man, we're going to talk about Money in the Bank, but maybe the best show of the day was Worlds Collide, man. That was,
yes,
man, that was so good. I want to know you guys' thoughts on Mr. Iguana, and some of those guys. But I was super happy, just watching it, for Vikingo, but learning more about AAA, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, I've seen Mr. Iguana like, a few times, but never like, full entrance match afterwards, all that kind of stuff. That guy's smooth, man. And you know what I mean? And like, I'm liking that guys like that with, I don't mean it to put him in a box, but it's kind of a simple gimmick. You know what I mean? And, the guy's got a pet iguana. It's a stuffed animal. You know what I mean? And people are loving getting it over with.
Right. Yes, he has a pet iguana, which is cool, but also the dude can go. Like,
yeah.
Like, don't let the iguana fool you.
Sure.
Yeah. As far as Mr. Iguana goes out, that was pretty cool. And that was pretty cool how many fans got to see him in the mainstream that day.
Yeah, it was really cool. See Psycho Clown, Pagano,
Aerostar.
Conan,
right, yeah.
Conan on commentary too with Corey. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
to kind of explain to us, everything that goes on, with these guys. But what a good card this was.
Yeah. I loved that it came across like a AAA show. It wasn't like a WWE show with a bunch of random luchadors just kind of thrown in there. Like, they still had the AAA presentation. I was blown away, excited with Conan being on commentary. That hadn't even crossed my mind. And now I'm like nerding out. Like, we got to get Conan in the video game. We got to get Conan action figures. We got to get a Conan shirt. Just like all this Conan stuff.
Yeah,
and,
about it.
DB, you'll understand completely where I'm coming from. I was expecting the show to be great and for everybody to be talking about Vikingo. Just because we have seen him in person.
Mm-hmm.
And like, instead of Vikingo, it was Mr. Iguana that came away as the breakout star.
Yeah.
Part of me was like, wait, what? But then like, that's just so pro wrestling. It's like, he's got a great gimmick. He's got something the kids can love. The adults can love.
That's what I thought of. Put the iguana on the merch store and hit.
Exactly. Yeah. I need a little iguana just sitting up there on my shoulder while we do the podcast,
Right.
Yeah.
A t-shirt
awesome. Great
with
show.
an iguana sewn on it on your shoulders already. And how many times has he done this thing where he throws the thing up in the air and it lands on his shoulder? I was like, man, that was seamless, bro.
Right.
Wow.
When he walked the ropes and he had the iguana bite in the hand and then he let go of it, and I was like, holy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And who was it? Lindsay Dorado that was stomping on it.
David
like
Spanish
crowd
fly.
just booing him. Yeah, he got heat off of, but yeah, how that's just so cool, man. And like I'm interested now, to see, how they gonna, interwork this thing and like, like I feel like I'm all in now to watch the AAA pay-per-views or whatever they're gonna have shows now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
they've already had some more, like crossover with WWE since then. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep. Very cool. Enjoyed that show, man. I'm loving that relationship so far, or ownership, whatever you call it. I guess not a relationship, but all right. Topic number 3, man. Let's talk a little NWA. Now, the problem with NWA has always been, where can we find them to watch them? They've jumped all over the place. All right. Well, a lot of people have, Fire Sticks and Rokus, now, in their house somewhere usually. And NWA just came up, they just signed a deal with the Roku channel, which is, a basic channel on Roku to have NWA Power on there a little more regularly, you know.
Okay.
So what I want to ask you guys is, first of all, I don't know if you guys have Roku's.
Nope.
That's okay. That's our that's what we use in my house. I've got like 6 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with this, for me, the answer is yes, because at least I don't have to, you know, search out a stream now. I can just go straight to a channel, NWA Power, boom, you know, on Roku. So would it make you want to watch it more?
I will say that it being on a dedicated channel and maybe a you know, consistent schedule is pretty cool, regardless of where it's at. But especially somewhere as accessible as a free Roku channel. Right. But because I remember, you know, when I was trying to watch it on YouTube and I'd see an NWA Power, I'd be like, is this the most recent one? Or, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I do get that. Unfortunately, I have given Jeff Bezos a lot of my money, and a lot of everything is Amazon branded in my house.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like, you know, it's like Apple, Android, Roku, Fire Stick, you know what I mean? It's like your, you know, your preference, you know? So, but I hope this, you know, becomes like a home and they stay, and, you know, this is where it's going to be, you know what I mean? So, you know, we don't have to, you know, because like I said, I'm trying, but I feel like, you know, which on Roku, like the YouTube channel is basically the same as the Roku channel. You got to go click on it and find, you know what I mean? So, but this might make it a little bit easier, especially for casuals. So,
for me, it's just a timing thing. It's like, it doesn't really matter. It being on a Roku channel doesn't make a huge difference for me, because I still only have 24 hours in a day, and there's 8 billion wrestling shows you got to keep up with. So, I'd love to watch it if I just had more time. But
all right, boys. Topic number 4. Let's talk about the new AEW Unified Championship. So what they're doing is they're taking the Continental Championship, I think, that Omega has, and then which one does Okada have? I can't remember the name of it. It's kind of,
I think it's the Continental title and the International title.
There you go. Yes, thank you. Continental. No, you're right. And so they're taking those and they're unifying them in this. So now they're going to be an AEW Unified Champion. Now, you know, first of all, how do we like the belt? Do we think it looks good? If you're watching right now on YouTube and Facebook, I got it.
So I actually don't dislike it, but the first thing I thought of, well, you know, when you play checkers and you go to the end of the board and you have to make them king you, that's like that same exact symbol.
Brown, it looks sleek and nice. It looks a little too simple, kind of, to me.
That was my thought too.
Yeah. And it almost kind of looks like they're trying to rip off the IC belt just a little to me. I don't know, maybe just the, you know, the shape of it or whatever. But first of all, I was like, oh man, I'm like, oh God, another title. And then I figured out that they were getting rid of 2 titles, putting them into one. So at least we're condensing here, because they do have too many titles. So
I had the same thought, DB, when I saw that they had a title on that table. I was like, are they about to make a new title, like just for Omega Okada, like greatest wrestler all time or of our generation or something like that type thing? When they said they were unifying it, I was like, okay, that gets rid of one of them. That's probably good. Just now the fact that we can't remember the names for who holds which one is a good example of maybe they have too many. And it added stakes to the match, I guess, as long as, like, my big thing was I want the Continental title to still be defended in the Continental Classic they do at the end of the year. I hope they keep that rule in place for it, because I like that. But yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Decent belt. Just, I don't know. Just, I mean, it's very AEW with the black and the, you know, kind of goldish, you know, yellow in it. But yeah, but I like the belt because it means they're getting rid of 2 and putting it into 1. So they kind of work. So yeah. All right, boys. Topic number 5. One of the big topics here we're going to talk about today: Money in the Bank results. It was a big weekend the other day, or it was a big weekend a few weekends back. Like we had Worlds Collide, you know, during the day. We did really well predicting this, so we'll talk about this. But Money in the Bank, the Intuit Dome in LA, Los Angeles, California. They said it was sold out around 17,000. You know, I guess that was probably about right. I just feel like I always can tell whether Michael Cole's really into like, you know, the sellout number, or if like they're just giving him one. But anytime they say around 17K, I'm like, well, they didn't come with a definitive number. So, but a couple things about this too. I thought the drone shots were awesome on this pay-per-view. I love the thing Logan Paul's doing where, you know, it lands in his hand. You know, it's kind of cool because they kind of showing everything around. Maybe I've missed this. I wanted you guys to help me or not, but is this the first time I've seen, or maybe I just haven't paid attention, you know, with them doing product placements on the turnbuckles? So many sponsorships, right? But there was a lot on this one.
I think the turnbuckles they had been doing.
Did they do Slim Jims or something?
I know the tables is new, and the ladder, well, the fireball ladder, you know,
that one I did, that stuck out to me.
Yeah, but I think at least the Prime logo, I remember seeing the Prime logo on the turnbuckles at different points.
Right. Yeah. So those was like, you know, like, if I just, has that been happening? I ain't seen it. Or
next thing you know, they're gonna have labeled tape to go around the ropes.
Somebody's logo on it all, you know.
Yeah.
They're gonna start putting the sponsors back on the actual wrestlers.
Right. It's an untapped market, you know what I mean? So another thing cool too, man. I meant to mention this earlier too. I'm, you know, maybe I haven't watched enough AAA shows, but I love the green, white, red ropes, you know, to signify the Mexican flag.
That was cool.
I thought that looked really good too. Yeah. All right, so let's get into the show, boys. First match was the women's Money in the Bank. We nailed it on the head, man. Naomi came out with that. Primo, give me your thoughts, man. You've been pulling for Naomi for a while, man.
Yes.
You had to be happy.
I was very happy. For a second there, it looked like they were teasing it and wasn't going to give it to us, but thankfully that is exactly what happened, and I was like, wow, I mean, they actually did it. So no, I was glad, and I thought there was you know, they always put the women's ladder match on first, but they always have a banger. You know what I mean?
They do.
Like, so for me, I mean, I understand why, you know, they do it, the men's later in the card.
Yeah.
You know,
especially
for
storyline.
Yeah, but I could totally see either one going first because, you know, the women's ladder match holds up just as much.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't feel like this was very predictable. I just think all of us kind of like it's her turn. You know, it's got to be. You know what I mean? So, like, I was really happy with that. So, excited to see what they can do with that. So, the second match was a match put together from Worlds Collide earlier in the day. Dominic Mysterio ended up beating Octagon Jr. So that was kind of lucky, an impromptu match. But the third match, Becky ends up winning the IC title from Lyra. So did we all pick Becky here? Or I don't remember. I think we kind of thought if Becky won, the story's over kind of deal, right? But were you guys a little disappointed by this? I think I picked Becky because I kind of felt like it was time to put some gold back on her, right?
Actually, I picked Lyra, but yeah.
Yeah, I know I picked Becky. I really liked the match. I think Becky and Lyra work really good together. Their two IC title matches, and going back to NXT, they've all have been really good matches. I hope they don't just send Lyra off into, you know, nothingness now. Like, I hope they keep her on TV. I hope they keep her doing something because I do think she's really good. But I like seeing Becky with some gold.
They can just send her somewhere to get rid of those wings, and then she can come back.
No.
Well, you know, I'm not a Lyra fan, but like I felt like with Becky winning, I'm like, well, they need to have something for her because it's kind of just going to look like, you know, Becky's just, you know, just kind of like, you know, she came back, took her belt, and now she goes off into oblivion. You know what I mean? So I'm not a big, you know, Lyra, you know, fan, but maybe it's a gimmick, you know, maybe gimmick change.
I mean, overall, I didn't really have a lot of stake in this match, to be honest. But maybe the outcome is they wanted a bigger name to kind of uplift their mid-card title, their women's mid-card title.
Right. And then Monday Bailey came back, right? So,
Right.
and they
Yeah.
got in each other's face. So that's got to
Yeah.
be a button up here soon. But yeah, a little bit of a head scratcher there. But, you know, anytime Becky wins, I'm like, you know, well, you know, I'm not super surprised because she's kind of a safe pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For, you know, and I'm sure she wanted to get that IC title on her resume too. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's only second because Lyra won it first, right? Yeah, she beat Dakota, I think, in the tournament. Yeah. All right, let's get to the meat, boys. So men's Money in the Bank came up. I think I might have been the only one to pick this right. I mean, of course, Primo's always going to be pulling for his boy, but I think I might have been the one to pick this right. But before we get to the win, though, a couple of notes that I found out, you know, throughout the Money in the Bank ladder match. Did you guys see the ladder shoot hit Andrade in the nuts when it fell?
Yes. I'm glad you caught that. Yes.
Because right after that, somebody came over to do something to him, and he waved them off
He's
completely.
like, "No, bro,
like,
no."
Yeah. I'm like, oh, that sucks. Yeah. We seen so Solo was climbing the ladder, thought he was maybe gonna win.
I hate you, Solo.
Yeah, we finally got to hear
So
it,
good.
man. Yeah. So that's still kind of playing out. And then we had, you know, of course, you know, Bronson and Breaker interfere. Do they have a name for their little faction yet? Just make sure I didn't miss it. Seth,
Not that I know
Paul,
of.
and all that. Okay, all right. So Seth ended up getting the win. Cue up that Seth Rollins laugh there, Primo. Yes, sir. So your boy got the win. Storyline wise, I mean, I love this. Like I said, man, I think Seth with a briefcase and Paul, you know, is going to be fun. I love that he came out in the green, you know, the very next night, you know, all decked out, you know, that kind of stuff. But, you know, storyline wise, I kind of felt like this made the most sense, you know, seeing, you know, it seems to me like TKO, you know, they're kind of like, I feel like they're kind of really going in on their stars. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody's getting all the big storylines right on the big stars, you know, and everybody else is kind of like, you know, maybe that'll change, but I mean, I like this. Just, you know, it made it more interesting to me. I didn't feel like anybody got snubbed, but I felt like LA got snubbed a little bit, but I can't remember which Raw it was or SmackDown, but Cena come out to talk. CM Punk came out behind him. Randy Orton's in the ring, and then here comes LA Knight, and I'm like, oh hell yeah! So they kind of give him that rub of being in that same little class with these guys. But talk to me about Primo. Tell me about when you saw Seth win, man.
Yeah, so like we mentioned, of course I didn't pick Seth because I thought that was like too easy. I thought, I mean, I don't know, you know what I mean? But obviously I'm happy about it.
Sure.
I thought so I'm cool with it. Now the rest of the guy, I thought the Jacob turning on Solo part was great. And just all out, it was chaos all around the ring. Yeah. But no, I was pretty happy when Seth won.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. So I went back and listened to our preview this week, actually, and both Primo and I were both like, I want Seth to win, but it seems too obvious. I'm going to pick LA Knight to win. And DB was the only one. I was like, no, I'm going to go ahead and go with Seth. We should have just trusted DB, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, the Solo Fatu spot I loved. Really, Solo in the whole match I thought was great. You kind of forget how entertaining he is, because when he's out there just having fun, he's a joy to watch. I enjoyed the match. Like to see Seth win. Like that LA Knight, like you mentioned, DB is still kind of in that. Looks like he might be feuding with Seth and his group, so he's not just off doing nothing now. Yeah, that's nice. And it was fun. It was a good match.
Yeah. I was pretty happy with it. So the main event was Cena and Logan versus Jay Uso and Cody. I want to mention too, I like how the ring announcers are introducing John as never seen 17-time champ. That's cool, man. Never seen 17. Yeah. That's cool. I was like, I like that. Logan, they might as well just call it his pet drone at this point. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I thought that was cool, but Cody pins Cena after an R-Truth return, and then the Monday after we find out he's Ron Killings, once again. But what you guys think about this, about the main event? Obviously, Cody pins Cena, so it's kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? But, with the interference of Ron Killings, I guess. But, I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to finish this, thing with Cena and Killings. But, for this particular main event, what'd you think?
I obviously popped to see R-Truth, and as soon as I saw somebody in a hoodie attack Cena, and then I could see their pant leg moved, so I was like, already suspicious. And then he took off the mask, and sure enough, but I if I remember correctly, this is what I kind of just picked. Not the interference, but as far as Cena losing, I still didn't care about it as far as the match goes, especially not being the main event, but whatever.
Yeah.
For what it was fine.
Did he cut his hair that night, or was it on Raw the next night when he cut his little?
The next night. Raw.
Okay. Yeah.
I enjoyed the match. I was ready to not like it, which is not the right attitude to have watching a wrestling show. But I was ready to not love it, and they won me over. I thought it was good enough.
Yeah.
The spot where Logan had his drone, and then Cody jumps up, and I think it was a superplex or whatever, but while Logan's holding it, and that was the shot they used, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
I was dead wrong on the predictions and everything. I thought they were doing the champion versus champion match.
Right.
I guess that was like the fall Saudi show, not the summer Saudi show.
Right.
So like everything I'd been very adamant about being like, why doesn't anybody else see this? I was just completely off the mark on.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. Love seeing Truth back, like we discussed. Given all the fallout of it, Jey Uso's in a really odd spot right now.
Right.
But yeah, the match itself, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. So Jey since has lost the belt back to Gunther, and and then fucking Goldberg. We'll talk about that later too. Showed up last night, but you know what I mean. So I don't know, some little moving parts right now that I didn't expect to move so quickly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I want to say this too, man. Dang it. Like, if I didn't know anything about Logan Paul, like if I didn't know anything about, he might be my fucking favorite wrestler right now. I'm not even kidding. Like, he's doing some cool shit. Dude he's just got it. I feel like he's just naturally that good. Like this drone thing, I'm like, that's, obviously they couldn't do that back in the 80s. They didn't have them then, but you know what I mean? Like, it's something new, you know what I mean? And he's doing the moves, holding the drone and stuff, you know what I mean? It's cool, man. We're kind of seeing things, different there. But overall, what you guys think of Money in the Bank, man? Let's smelly mark this thing 1 to 10. I might have enjoyed Worlds Collide a little bit more, but I didn't know shit about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
other than the King, though. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to judge off that. But
so, I agree. I definitely liked Worlds Collide even more. That, like, I remember specifically saying that, Money in the Bank has a lot of their work cut out for them if they want to add up to that. But spelling marking Money in the Bank. I like gimmick matches. I would say, but beyond the gimmick matches, there was what? 2 other matches?
Yeah, well, Dom, Becky, and
Dom and Octagon. Yeah, which, by the way, was made at Worlds Collide.
Yeah.
After Octagon had been in the 6-man. So that was kind of cool that carried over. But I'd give it a solid 7.5.
Yeah, I'll stay there too.
Yeah, I was in that 7 to 8 range. Like, I will say, this was the first pay-per-view I got to watch live in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Man, those commercials dragged down the show. The whole time I was like, if I was watching this on replay, I'd be done in like an hour and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like 3.5 hours. But the actual show itself, I'm in that 7 to 8 range. We'll just call it 7.5. Cut it in the middle. Not bad, but nothing, like special can't miss.
I mean, unless I have something to do on Monday, or unless there's something that's going to happen on Raw. Like usually I watch the replay because Netflix will cut out 30 minutes of commercials, or you know what I mean, and Peacock will too. So that kind of makes it nice. But yeah, I was about right there too. Like it didn't blow my socks away, but I love this because when I sat down, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm about to watch 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches, and it's gonna be awesome. You know what I mean? So expectations always kind of high there, but yeah, I enjoyed it, man. So all right, boys, I think Night of Champions is up next, or we got a Saturday Night's main event first, and then
I think Night of Champions is coming up.
You're right. That's in June. Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, the Saudi show. Punk's following Cena to that face to face was money.
That was good.
Yeah,
last Monday I thought.
Keep going.
I was going to say the only reason I liked it was because like they're having this conversation and Punk's like, you sound like CM Punk, you know what I mean? Like and they're just totally like, oh,
and
circle moment.
Being a fan of their feud, you can pick up on all the callbacks that they say during the promos. I'm just gonna say I'm obviously not a fan that it's being wasted on a Saudi show. But it is what it is.
Man, that match in Chicago, we've talked about it. We kind of pitched that as like his last feud. But if that match was in Chicago, that would be insane.
Oh yeah,
the crowd would be insane.
Give me Saturday night's main event: Rosemont Horizon, Punk versus Cena. Good Lord.
Yeah, but
good Lord.
Send it halfway across the world. So whatever.
Yeah. All right, boys, that's going to do it for the hot start. It's time to get to the dropkick discussion of the week. But first, let's hear from our buddy, Mr. Havens.
Hey, guys, this is Mr. Havens, the Argyle assassin himself, giving them all the shivers. And you're listening to DB, Primo, AJ here on the Sit Down Marks podcast, the best podcast for professional wrestling.
All right, it's time to talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about historic wrestling venues. There's probably there's a venue that you probably grew up going to see wrestling at. There's probably a venue close to you now that you go and see wrestling at a lot. We're not going to be able to hit all of them. But we're going to talk about a bunch of the more popular ones. We got a small little short list of indie wrestling venues that we're going to talk about coming up here. But there's always big the big arenas, and then there's always like the famous ones, like ECW Arena, right? Of course, and then there's some that are kind of like not really big arenas, but has a lot of history, like the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island. You know what I mean? Like, those kind of places. So we're going to be talking about a little, a few of those. I'll kick off the list with a couple here. The Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, home to, like, they were, that's the place where Kobe and Shaq made famous, right? That was the place that they built after the Forum. You know what I mean? And like anything that happened on the West Coast big, happened there. The world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden in New York. I always think about that place. And then when I hear Madison Square Garden in wrestling, I always think about Cena when he come out and did the return from the, when he put his hands.
The Royal Rumble.
You know what I mean? Royal Rumble. Like, tons of shit happened in Madison Square Garden, but that's one of the things that that definitely kind of sticks out to me. Wrestling history is in Madison Square Garden because it's so old. You know what I mean? A lot of places have been torn down, new places have been built. Thank God they didn't tear down the ECW Arena. They've remodeled it in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That one are always, kind of, everybody knows the ECW Arena, right? Like everybody wants to go and what is it? The corner of, is it Rittner and Swanson, I think, or something? Swanson and Rittner. There you go. Yeah. Places like the Nassau Coliseum that I talked about, this was like the the venue in New York that WWE went for years, the venues of, so many house shows here, so many big shows here. And then one more in New York, before I kick it to Dylan, that still to this day gets awesome wrestling shows. The Hammerstein Ballroom, in New York. GCW just ran there. It's got to be one of the coolest backdrops, man, because of all the seating they have, like in the walls, basically. What it looks like. But name a couple of them that you got there, Dylan.
So I'll just
a fly flew in my eye or something. I went blind when I went to talk.
Yeah, fly doing a fly in, if you will. Just to bounce off the Hammerstein, start with the Manhattan Center.
Yeah,
because I believe they're like the same building. Like the Manhattan Center might be like the top level or something like that.
I think you're right. Yeah,
like all of the beginning of Raw, the first. I don't know how many episodes, but that's all the Manhattan
Pros.
Center, the Ico Pro in the background. Ring of Honor ran a lot of shows there. One of so you already mentioned MSG, but if you just say historical venues, MSG is probably the first one that comes to mind.
For sure.
But then the second one for me is the Sportatorium in Texas, Dallas, the world class.
Yep.
Another Sportatorium in, I think it was Tampa for Florida Championship Wrestling. But the Dallas one always comes to mind. All the world class, the Von Erichs, the Freebirds, all of that stuff.
Yep.
Loved how they represented it in that Iron Claw movie that came out a year or two ago. And another one that I know DB has to have on his list, but I'm going to steal it. Greensboro Coliseum.
It's only my favorite venue ever, Dylan.
I was going to say, I'll talk more about it, but that those three really, MSG, the Sportatorium, and Greensboro are the first three just off the top of my head. It was I have to talk about these. Of
course,
the early Starcades. It was kind of the home for Crockett.
Yeah,
at least,
the first four were there. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Even WWE ran pay-per-views there.
Yeah.
In later times after the territory ended, but I'll let you talk more about that one, DB.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so the Greensboro Coliseum, right? I saw Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat wrestle each other there at least 100 times. Had to have been. I remember this was the first place I saw Magnum TA live. This was the first place I saw the Andersons, Ole and Arn. But there's one place too I want to talk about where we're talking Greensboro Coliseum. I grew up as an hour and a half from there. That's where all the big, NWA, WCW shows were, growing up. But but the closest place to me was the Charlotte Coliseum. Now, back in the old days, it was called the Charlotte Coliseum. Since when the Charlotte Hornets came around in 1988, the NBA team, they built a new place and called that the Charlotte Coliseum. So then the old Coliseum became the old Coliseum. Since then, they've changed names. Independence Arena. Currently, it's Bojangles Coliseum, which AEW just ran there. But yeah. So this is where the first time my dad landed some front row seats. That was the first time I touched the Rock and Roll Express. First time I touched Sting. First time I touched God, I can't remember, I always remember when Dad got those, and he's a jokester, so he's who knows what year it was. He's like, yeah, I got some front row seats. I'm like, yeah, right, because usually we'd sit up somewhere, but yeah, the old Charlotte Coliseum, man, you could blindfold me, right, and you could take me into a room. And if you could walk me into the old Charlotte Coliseum, I could smell that place and know where I'm at. That's, it just had this old, sweaty, just humid, not a real nice air conditioned place, but not a real hot one either. But so much, history in the wrestling in that area. I remember me and Dad, right after that show, we went and ate somewhere, and Bobby Eaton was sitting there eating, after the show, right? From the Midnight Express, So it was that was just a big time. But And then while we're with Carolinas, I'll stay right there real quick. Dylan, I'm gonna toss it back to you. Probably the place that I went the most. So my dad lived in South Carolina. After my parents split up after a certain age, right? And then so he lived in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So there would always be these, like I call them indie shows, but it's like, so say like guys, WCW guys. So they had this schedule, right? And then when they didn't have this schedule, they would always wrestle at these other arenas and stuff. And the Spartanburg Auditorium, Spartanburg, South Carolina, it always, like, every card you went to there was loaded. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like an all-star card, every time there. But you talk about a place that I always felt like was just built by a wrestling fan. The Spartanburg Auditorium was just perfect, man. It was, it had the rafter seats. You felt like you were on top of the action. I think like that was probably like, I remember going to those days where, the old ladies were hitting the wrestlers with their pocketbooks and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it was during that era. But I went there the absolute most. The last show I went to there with my dad was like a couple years before he passed away, and Taz was there. And so like dad, like it was like his thing, like we always went to shows together. He'd always buy me a shirt of whoever I wanted, right? And so like, during that time, like, I was, a huge Taz fan, and he bought me this Taz shirt, that I still have. I'll never get rid of. But, I'm just saying that was just kind of, guys that came through there. I saw Bret Hart there, I mean, you name it, they wrestled in Spartanburg. But all right, let's see some of yours there, Dylan. Now that I'm going to get off my sentimental soapbox.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep it in the South. This place, Arn Anderson called the MFG of the South on his podcast. It's the Omni in Atlanta.
The Omni in Atlanta.
Wish I could have went there. It was demolished in '97.
Yeah. Those tickets were too expensive for me growing up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. That's where the big shows were in Atlanta.
That was where, I guess you'd say that Four Horsemen was formed in a way. It's where the Andersons and Flair turned on, or Flair turned on Dusty with the Andersons, beat him down in the cage. Starrcade 85 and 86, I believe it is. They are like split up between Greensboro and Atlanta. Half of it in the Omni, half of it in the Greensboro Coliseum, which in hindsight is just a weird move.
Yeah.
Had a couple nitros. Like I said, that's one I really wish I could have went to. And then move over to the Memphis area, the Mid-South Coliseum.
Yep.
It was like kind of the hub, the big shows for Memphis wrestling, talking like the Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett era. Two interesting things I found out just doing some research on this. I had way too much fun just looking up old wrestling venues, by the way. Great topic, DB.
Yeah, thanks, man.
We all know WCW. There's the famous match where Macho Man is wrestling La Parka, and La Parka hits a diamond cutter and pulls off the hood, and it's DDP. That was in the Mid-South Coliseum.
Yeah. And
Macho Man's last WCW match is just a random battle royal on a Thunder. It happened to be at the Mid-South Coliseum.
Oh, no shit.
So I was thinking, I didn't either. I was thinking all this like Jerry Lawler type stuff, and then found two Macho Man Nitro moments that were really cool.
Yeah.
And one I have got to go to is the Evansville Coliseum, Evansville, Indiana. Online, it said that was where the Memphis territory ran their Saturday shows. They were, weekly territory, would just hit all these different places every week. That Evansville Coliseum might be the coolest place I've ever watched a wrestling show. Because it was still like, hadn't been completely renovated at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was still all the old architecture, and the bathrooms were still kind of sketchy because everything's starting to fall in, and there's all these like big paintings and stuff. Saw a couple of GCW shows down there, and it was really cool. I think they might be redoing it now, kind of from what I've heard. So hopefully they don't make it too new. Hopefully they keep some of the old stuff in there. I'll do one more and I'll pitch it back to you, DB.
Okay.
This place, it is historical. I had it higher in my head than I think it actually was. But it was the old Boston Garden. Part of why I thought it was so historical might just be from like the actual basketball, like Celtics history, not the wrestling. Because when I Googled it, they've only had one pay-per-view. It was the 93 Survivor Series.
Right.
Which I loved. I have it on VHS, but if you go back and watch it, it's not a great pay-per-view by any means. But, a ton of old WWF shows. That's where Macho beat Tito for the IC title.
Yeah. Had a lot of house shows there.
Yeah, just in my head, I don't know why I had it built up. There's like one of the mainstays of that early WWF. And I'm sure it was, just not on like the mainstream, like big time pay-per-view type stuff.
Right.
But let's hear some more of yours.
All right, so I want to bring up too. We talk about ECW arena. There was probably a bigger wrestling arena in at the time in Philadelphia. The time when the Omni was big in Atlanta, the Spectrum was where the 76ers played. A lot of wrestling happened there. In the old days, there was another place called the Civic Center that used to pack out a lot of people. Just kind of throw out a few. The Richfield Coliseum in Cleveland, Ohio, had a lot of people. Has like some rich history there. I guess we kind of gotta say maybe the Pontiac Silverdome. I mean, one of the biggest moments in wrestling, happened there. Back then, Detroit was using the Silverdome for a lot of things. Like I think the Pistons played there because Larry Bird's talking about having to go there and play a lot. Whenever he was younger, the Cow Palace in San Francisco.
I had that one.
Yeah, another big one that's been in wrestling for a long time. What would be crazy, Dylan, to say, Mayday Stadium, Pyongyang, North Korea. You know what I mean? They held 340,000 people in 2 days.
It's like just a one show, but it's a pretty historic show.
Right. So I kind of feel like maybe you gotta throw that one in there. Weirdly, oddly enough, Primo, we kind of gotta say the Impact Zone, right? Like,
I had that one down.
Orlando, right?
In Orlando,
yeah. TNA got over there.
They were there and they ran shows there a long time.
Yeah. So Primo, you grew up in Texas, man. What arena's close to you? Did you go see wrestling or new wrestling?
What's funny is I was thinking about this earlier, that we used to have the Moody Center, which is at University of Texas campus. That was their basketball arena. My high school went to the state basketball championship there. Mm-hmm. I went to my first ever live TV Raw there. I've also been to house shows there, but that Moody Center is no longer. They destroyed it like 2 years ago. They demolished it and they built a new arena. So now when they go to Austin, it's a different building, and I'm not sure what it's called, but for a long time it was the Moody Center.
Nice. We got to talk about Rosemont Horizon in Chicago. That's where WrestleMania 13 was. A lot of people's favorite, you know what I mean? So, definitely historic venue. I love that venue, man, because you still go to it. You look up and it's still got wood in the ceilings. Like that's how, old it is, a ton of them there. A couple personal more favorites to me. The old Dorton Arena it's in Raleigh, North Carolina. This place wasn't, ever like made for wrestling, but it was kind of like an arena, that's on like a fairgrounds. And they ended up running wrestling there, and somebody went there and was like, holy shit, the acoustics in here are phenomenal. Like you could literally I remember hearing some stories and reading some stories about, the wrestlers, like the acoustics were so good in there. Nobody called anything in the ring there because everybody be able to hear you. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was like it could have been an old wise tale too, but Dad took me to Dorton Arena growing up. I'm pretty sure I saw Ric Flair versus Greg Valentine there. As the main event. I remember like Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull, was on that card. Pistol Pez Watley, Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant, so But a couple more, and then we'll jump over to our indie list. Me, a personal favorite. It's not a wrestling arena, but I mean, fuck, I was there, man, when Goldberg beat Hogan. It's Georgia Dome. It's not there anymore. You know what I mean? But it's not a wrestling venue at all. You know what I mean? But I mean, kind of a
It counts.
Yeah,
It
I guess it counts. A couple more. That I believe that's just about all I got on my list. I do have one, but I think it falls under indie. But do you have any more, Dylan, before we move to indies?
Yeah, I'll just quickly mention one or two, then I'll jump to the indies. Center Stage in Atlanta. A lot
Never
of the
been there.
WCW. What was it? Saturday night. On Saturday night, obviously.
Yeah.
The Saturday night shows were there. And then, like, it's still up and running. A bunch of different people have ran there, like more modern times, TNA, NXT, Ring of Honor, GCW. Like, it's still pretty active, it seems like. Gonna mention the where'd it go? The UIC Pavilion in Chicago.
Yeah.
I just got digging. Like I said, I'm just fascinated by this stuff.
Sure.
So, like, different venues would some of them would be like a WWE venue or a WCW venue or what have you. So you mentioned Rosemont, DB. That's pretty much a WWF arena.
Yeah, pretty
In
much.
'94, WCW ran Spring Stampede there. That was like the only show they ran at the Rosemont. So then I got digging. I was like, well, where did they run if they didn't run in that venue? And the UIC Pavilion was kind of where they would go. They had Starrcade 87. The Chi-Town Rumble in '89. That's first of the trilogy between Flair and Steamboat. So I put that one on the list. I put the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. Had one of the early Saturday night's main events. So the No Holds Barred movie, the Hogan and Zeus movie, when they did the match for the pay-per-view part, that show was at the Nashville Auditorium. Starrcade was there from '94 to '96, and then the last big show I could find was Ric Flair's Let's Hope last match was at the Nashville Auditorium.
Yeah.
And I'll jump over to the indies unless you want to throw something else out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Historical is kind of a weird term for this one because
for
like
indies,
the other ones we've talked about, we're going back to like the '80s or even beyond.
Sure, yeah. We're kind of talking about what is now,
Yeah, I don't know if historical really describes some of these, but
sure.
The first one that came to mind was the PWG, the American Legion Hall in Reseda.
Yep.
They didn't start there, but I feel like that's where they became really famous.
Yep.
They're
number 308. Why do I know that number? You know what I mean? It's from watching wrestling. The American Legion 308, right?
Yeah.
Reseda.
Yeah. Brian, AJ, the Bucks, so many legends came through that building.
And legendary for not having any air conditioning either.
Right. Yeah. Which in a way, like, adds to the indie wrestling part
absolutely.
Of it. We know that too well. I had to mention Spalding. Spalding Hall, not the official name of it, but that's what everybody knows it as.
Yeah.
That's where St. Louis Anarchy runs. Earliest show I could find on Cage Match was in 2012 at Spalding. And, they're still running there today. One of my favorite places to go. Had to mention Berwyn Eagles, Berwyn, Illinois.
Yeah.
Right outside of Chicago, basically Chicago.
We'll be there another week and a half
there.
so,
We'll be there another, That's right. All kinds of indies up there. Yeah. That's where AAW is at now. Have you been there? Oh, sick. Awesome.
Yeah. Logan Square.
I had Logan Square on the list. Had the White Eagle Hall up in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcester, yes, sir.
It's under renovation now, I believe. But that's where Beyond used to run all the time. A bunch of big stuff up there.
Right.
Had to throw out Knights of Columbus Hall, LaSalle, Illinois.
Of course, yes.
Dreamwave,
in LaSalle. God bless.
Home away from home.
Speaking of hot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's Dreamwave's home. Love going up there.
Yeah.
The only other one I put on my list was the Rosemont Theater. No, the Roseland Theater. I wrote it down on this. The Roseland Theater in Oregon. It's where Prestige does their big Roseland events now. It's like one of the hot places to go out on the West Coast.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's a million more for the
Oh
indies
Lord,
we could have put down. But those were what I had on my list.
Yeah, shout out to it's Washington Hall.
Oh yeah.
Then where Defy ran, I went there one
Yeah.
time. It's a venue that like reminds you of like Hammerstein. You know what I mean? It's like people sitting everywhere, man. And I walked in there, I'm like, man, this is dope. Like this is a cool arena. My personal favorite over in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Grady Cole Center. Saw a lot of indie shows there. Some still, run there. But yes, vast list. We just got over, some favorites here. So, but yeah, it was good to look at venues, and just kind of reminisce and talk about, the ones that you really like. Shout out to Nathan. He said Spalding. But yeah, good one there, man. Good topic. It was fun to kind of go back and think about Greensboro and think about being at the Georgia Dome, when Goldberg won the title. So cool stuff, man. All right, if you guys are ready, man, it's time to go home. Primo, let's get out of here. But first, a word from SportsWire Radio.
Looking for all the latest happenings in the world of sports and wrestling? Well, you're in luck because SportsWire Radio has you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. With great shows in the world of sports, such as the Pinstripe Chronicles, hosted by Uncle Tats, Donald Stewart, and Rob Barrows. New York Baseball Talk with Chris Bazaya and Rob Maraska. The Liftoff Jets, also hosted by Chris Bazaya and Sharman Phillip. Neil Villapiano and the Devil's State of Mind. Randy Dillon's Hockey Fan Chat. In the world of wrestling, SportsWire Radio has you covered with Squared Circle Radio, featuring Chris Belcher, Andy York, and Jared Justice. Those sit-down marks with DB, Primo, AJ, and Michael. A work in progress, featuring the Mayor of Canton, Piles, and Glenn Abbott. You can catch all of these great shows and more anytime, anywhere, and any place via the Listen Live button on SportsWireRadio.org, and you can also catch SportsWire Radio anytime on YouTube at SportsWire Radio 6579 to catch all the latest happenings in the world of wrestling. SportsWire Radio has you covered. It's all sports matters and all wrestling matters here on SportsWire Radio. I am your host, the owner of SportsWire Radio, the #1 global radio station, the owner of the Promo Wrestling Federation, and one of the owners of the Pride Wrestling Federation. Your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters, the Reverend Tom Bryce.
Thank you to our friends over at SportsWire Radio. Make sure you go check out sportswireradio.org for a lot of great podcasts that you heard, and ourselves will be on there as well. Want to remind you to follow Sit Down Marks on all social media and sitdownmarks.com. Want to thank the new guys for being on the pod about 2 weeks ago, man. They hooked us up with some gear this weekend. So shout out, go back and listen to that. Also, Primo's got a brand new Cheap Pops out, just came out about a week ago. Cheap Pops of Primo, where it's a very great one, man. So in this particular episode, no spoilers, but he talks about brotherhood. He just got me thinking about all the brotherhoods in my life. You know what I mean? So go check that one out, man. Good, awesome. Not good episode, Primo. That was an awesome episode.
Oh, appreciate it. I really like that one a whole lot too. You probably tell when I was talking about it, but yeah, I really like that topic.
Yeah, it was good stuff there. So brotherhood and wrestling, go check it out. Cheap Pops with Primo. Go check it out. It's available right now on all audio platforms. All right. So also a reminder, we got Discord. Hit us up on any of those social medias. Primo, if you're watching right now on YouTube and Facebook, he's been putting out the link there. Come and join. Come talk to us. Come talk wrestling with us. So, all right, Dylan. First of all, let's get to what has happened already, man. So we had Dreamwave last weekend. Born for this. It was for lack of a better term, it was kind of the night of the champions. Everybody retained. We did have some announcements. Maggie retained against Vert Vixen, and announcement at July 12th. She's going to be putting the Dreamwave women's title on the line against WWE's formerly known as Cora Jade. Her name is now Elena Black on the indies. So it's going to be a big show there. Matt Cardona is going to be at the show. Our guys, the new guys, retained against the premiere. It was an awesome night, man. I got to meet Colby Carino for the first time. Super cool, man. He helped me out with some promos. So shout out to Colby. If you ever, if you ever hear this, he really helped me out in a few little spots that I was working on. So shout out to Colby, and was glad he did not win the title from Connor, but Channing Thomas and Sydney Bacabella, retained, or well, not retained, but still good as gold briefcase holder, and heading into Summer Spectacular is going to be going against Hammerstone. But what was the big matches that kind of jumped out to you, man? That Gringo Coco was awesome too.
Yeah, real quick before we back up to last week, it was announced while we were live, whatever, here tonight. Matt Cardona, Gringo Loco, 1-on-1 Summer Spectacular.
Whoa.
That's not how I was picturing it, but I cannot wait to see it. Jay knows what he's doing. That's going to be a stick match. But yeah, back to Saturday. One shout out, Maggie Lee had to represent the champ tonight, Maggie Lee shirt, and still her and Connor both passing the 1 year mark as champs. Thought Maggie and Vert really delivered in the main event. Obviously Connor and Colby, great match for the title. Gringo Coco, hot opener, loved that match. Some of the stuff they did on the apron, coming off the apron, I was like, you guys trying to walk tomorrow, or you got something else planned, or what? Honestly, the Marcus Mathers Channing Thomas match may have been my favorite match.
Okay.
I was excited for it, and they blew away my expectation. That was the sequences they had at the end of the match, the near falls, had me biting on a couple of those. Thought Marcus was about to hand Channing that first loss. Another really good, it's a Dreamwave show. It's a really good night, lots of fun, great crowd, sold out crowd. Shout out the new guys. Soup told him in his promo before the show to grab the tag rope and figure it the fuck out, and they didn't win the match technically, but I think they figured it the fuck out. They kept the title, so careful what you ask for, Soup. Looking forward to July Summer Spectacular, and then another triple shot technically in August.
Yep. All right, man. So give us that preview, man. What's going on this weekend? What are the big shows here before we go home?
Yeah, so if you're listening live, you're getting a preview of the preview. Preview will drop tomorrow evening. Plan is at least. Another slower week. We're kind of bouncing back and forth between slow weeks with not a lot happening and big weeks where everybody decides to run on the same weekend. Only 2 shows in the preview, both of them GCW, both of them debut shows for GCW. They make their Little Rock debut on Friday and their Kansas City debut with the lovely Missouri State Athletic Commission on Sunday. Friday, Little Rock, we have got match I just cannot wait for. DB, and I talked about it a little bit already.
Boned up, boy.
Billy Starks and Adam Priest.
I just got to know, man. I just got to know how it goes.
Yeah, it's going to be sick. Gary J's back at Anarchy. Gary versus Jonathan Gresham. It'll be really good. Action Mike Jackson. Guy's like 75 years old or something like that, legitimately. Challenging Effie for the world title. That'd be fun. Elena Black, we were just talking about her. She's back at GCW this weekend, first time since being released. And then Sunday in Kansas City, assuming Effie's still a champ, he'll defend against Too Cold Scorpio. So Effie's got a couple vets on the schedule this weekend. Billy Starks and Miyu Yamashita, they've had great matches before, but they are teaming up this weekend. They're challenging Jordan Oliver and Alec Price for the tag titles. That should be a lot of fun. We got the GCW Juggalo Championship Wrestling feud continuing. Matt Tremont representing GCW against Too Tough Tony. We got Masha Slamovich representing GCW against Mickey Knuckles. Should be a good card.
Boy.
Yeah. All that with, like I said, the Missouri State Athletic Commission watching over their shoulder. So that should be interesting. But yeah, that's all I had this week. Keep an eye on my socials tomorrow at DHagerJ15. Probably tomorrow evening that will be dropping.
All right, boys. Time for a little announcement. So, if you've been
Yeah.
watching at social media, you've kind of seen a few things. So, it's no secret that we are, affiliated with Dreamwave Wrestling. Well, to make it official now, a project that me and the boys, and with the blessing of Dreamwave, we're going to be putting together for you. A lot of people know that Dreamwave is, it turns out some of the best independent talent, on the indies, but what you may not know is that those guys and girls that are wrestling before the live stream comes on are the future of Dreamwave Wrestling and the future of independent wrestling. So now with the brainchild of me and Primo and Dylan and Dreamwave Wrestling, we've come up with this idea of a way to showcase the stars of tomorrow in Dreamwave Wrestling. So those matches that you probably wouldn't get to see unless you're actually at the building, actually at the show. So we're going to be receiving those, and we're going to be talking, and we're going to be showing you those matches through our YouTube. And we're going to be commenting on the matches, talking about those stars of tomorrow. These guys and girls are going to be giving us promos. We're going to get to learn about, the new wave, the next generation of Dreamwave Wrestling. These guys and girls, they're the ones that show up and set up the ring and stay for the whole show and break it down afterwards. They're really grinding out there. A lot of guys and girls that are wanting to make a name for themselves. And so now Primo and Dylan and Jay and I from Dreamwave Wrestling have come together to put together this platform, this YouTube series, where every show that Dreamwave has, there's going to be a pre-show that's going to be recorded. And you're going to be able to see those matches right here on the Sit Down Marks podcast, on the Sit Down Marks YouTube channel. Each and every time we're going to be talking about those. Now it'll be dropping obviously later, after the show. But you're going to get to know, the next wave, the next generation. We couldn't be more excited. We're excited to, to break off into this new venture. The podcast is, it's been good to us, and it's been really good to us. Now as we're really becoming, a part of Dreamwave Wrestling officially, and a part of their brand. And we want to thank them first of all and foremost for, letting us be a part of this. Let us, talk about their brand. Let us, promote their stars of the future, and be able to help get the name of what Dreamwave Wrestling is all about, out there to the world. So we couldn't thank them. We can't thank them enough for what they do for us, and we're excited for this opportunity. We're chomping at the bit to get started on this. So stay tuned for that. You're going to find out. Stay tuned on social media. You're going to find out when we're going to drop this. We got a sick logo, to kick this thing off. And we're really excited about this. I got to talk to my boy here for a second because, Dylan goes to a lot of the shows, and Dylan knows, a lot, about, Dreamwave and Primo, he's, he watches Dreamwave, he knows, of what's going on, that kind of, but I got to ask Primo because, he's been in this with me for over 4 years now. And, this is another involvement of the podcast, and, we're just like super excited about it. So I just kind of wanted to give him a little shine here for a second because, he does a lot of shit behind the scenes for this podcast. And you're going to see me and Dylan at a lot of the shows, and, but he's the one that's going to help, that's helped put this thing together. Like there's no podcasts without Primo, and that's the truth. And he does a lot of the background stuff, and you're going to get to know Primo more. You know what I mean? When during this too, and his fandom. So just kind of want to give you props, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're just another, like I said, just another involvement of the podcast, and it's cool. It's cool.
I did want to touch on that real quick. Obviously, I echo all the same sentiments. When we first started this thing, we had no idea where this was going to take us, but this is definitely somewhere that we couldn't have never even imagined. And for us to be involved in this and to be trusted to be able to be involved in this is a big deal to me and you and Dylan, and and to the podcast as a whole. It's really cool, and I can't wait till we get this thing rolling.
Yeah, and what I love too about this is like, to my knowledge, this is going to be an original idea, that we've kind of put up together. I don't know if anybody else is doing this. Might be doing it some way, but I think you're really going to like the way that these guys and girls are going to be portrayed, in this. You're really going to get to know them, and you're really going to get to to see. But stay tuned. This really awesome. Dylan, thank you. For helping, because people at Dreamwave, they know me because I'm on the show, but they know Dylan too because he's always the fan in the crowd, and and everybody knows who the green hat guy is. You know what I mean? And so with the help of that, with his, we got everything covered. We got the inside me. You know what I mean? And then Dylan is a fan. You know what I mean? And so, it's going to be awesome. I'm excited for it. I need to stop talking about it because I get giddy. I'm excited about the opportunity. So, yeah. So thank you. Hang tight. And how you feeling, Dylan? It's pretty exciting, right? Like, you're not a fan anymore. You're not just a fan anymore.
Yeah, not just a fan. Still just a fan, but not just a fan. You know what I mean? Yeah, again, you guys said it. Cannot thank Jay and everybody at Dreamwave enough. This really does mean a lot. I'm excited. We're going to have fun. We're going to have fun. I can't wait. Already, just talking amongst ourselves, different ideas we've had and everything. I can't wait. Cannot thank them enough. You guys have like a 3.5 to 4 year head start on me on this. So it's cool for you guys to see, cool for me to see you guys grow the pod from where it was when I started listening, to getting this extra show. It's going to be awesome. Cannot wait.
Yeah. All right, man. Good stuff. All right. So what's coming up on the pod? Well, next week, stay tuned. I'm hitting you with another DB's Territory Treasures is coming out. I'm going to give you I'm going to let you in for the people who are listening, a little sneak peek or whatever. I'm going to be talking about an iteration of a trio that was managed by Teddy Long, none other than the Skyscrapers. So make sure you guys stay and listen to that. If you're not familiar with who the Skyscrapers were, well, you're going to be very familiar with who one of them was at least. So make sure you tune into that. And then
real quick on that too,
before
you move on from Territory Treasures here, I mentioned this kind of briefly on Cheap Pops. I plugged this a couple times, but I really wanted to plug to people that these are not. They're standalone episodes, so that anybody can go and listen to any of these Territory Treasures at any time. Yeah. And they'll stand on their own feet. So feel free to go back and listen to the other 2 Territory Treasures that DB has already done, because those are great too. Yeah. So what's coming up in July? Well, Primo will bring us another Cheap Pops on down the line as long as another Territory Treasures. But we're going to be talking about some of our favorite SummerSlam matches of all time. We're going to preview SummerSlam, of course, coming up in New Jersey, and a quick little sneak peek of who our guests are this month. You're going to get 2 this month, folks. Coming early in the month is going to be none other than Mr. Florida Man himself, a big guy, popular in Zawa and in Dreamwave. And then later in the month, well, we went to the top of the Dreamwave champion, the crown jewel, Connor Hopkins. He's been on the podcast before, but he's coming back to talk about his reign as Dreamwave champion. He's gonna come and talk to us right after Summer Spectacular. So we'll be talking about what's going on with that. So make sure you tune into that. Also, Dreamwave, obviously, July 12th. They're announcing matches as we speak. They just mentioned we say Hammerstone and Channing Thomas, and then Matt Cardona and who else? And Gringo Loco, And then there's going to be like a pre-show autograph session. Coco Beware is going to be there. So DWTIX.net. Go get your tickets, and then tickets on sale right now. Just announced coming in August. The Dealer's Hand Lottery is where every match is going to be random. Every match's stipulation is going to be random. And coming to a Dreamwave, Tommy Dreamer and Enzo Amore. So that's going to be good in August. So, all right, boys, let me get you out of here on this, man. So,
Goldberg. Why? Why are we doing this again? I mean, I know it's going to be in Atlanta. I mean, dude's coming out already with a a lamp.
Yeah.
Walking to do a promo. I don't know, man. Like this scares me because I'm having nightmares of like Jay coming out and doing something to Gunther, and then Goldberg wins the title for some dumb reason.
The only thing that I could see, like I hope that comes from this, is somehow Seth cashes in.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Possibility too, yeah.
Yeah, because we've seen Goldberg beat Kevin Owens for the title. We've seen Goldberg beat The Fiend for the title. And so part of me was like, well, there's no way he's going to beat Gunther, but they've kind of already showed that, like, okay, yeah, there is a way. Just the timing and all of it, like having Gunther beat Jay on Raw, and then the next week Goldberg shows up. I hope they're not just hot-shotting it on Goldberg. I hope they're not just having Gunther beat Jay so he can beat Goldberg in Atlanta and then lose the title back to Jay at SummerSlam or something. Like, I don't need it to be, that quick back and forth.
Yeah. I definitely don't like how quick they did that, and like how they made it seem so just obviously forced. But
man, 3-year-old Dylan absolutely loved Goldberg. DB, you talked about being in the Georgia Dome, but that was 27, 20
exactly.
ago.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we all loved him back then.
Right. Yeah.
I was just funny because I was actually watching a video today of like bad returns, and 2 of them were back-to-back years in Saudi Arabia involving Goldberg. So I was just like,
you think they're doing Atlanta because it's the best place he can get the biggest pop?
I mean, yeah, they're maybe.
Yeah.
He did. Oh man.
See, it was rumored that this would be like his retirement match. They haven't mentioned anything about that on screen officially yet.
Yeah.
So if it is, I get it. I can't talk anymore. I get Atlanta being his last match. Play for the Falcons, all the WCW stuff.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I don't mind it. If it's him beating Gunther so Goldberg can fight at SummerSlam, I'm out. I don't care.
His shirt says Goldberg's last ride also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm scared.
last ride could mean one match, or
somebody said the only last ride I want to see him take is from The Undertaker.
Yes, give me that last ride.
I don't need that again.
No, we don't need that again. That was one of those 2 matches that I was talking about.
Yeah. I'm gonna be watching that like with just anticipation of fuckery.
Yeah.
But anyway,
you think even Gunther's like, oh man?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I don't know. Like, if I was in Gunther's, I'd probably be like, fuck yeah, I'll work Goldberg. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude's a legend. You know what I mean? So,
unless they're like, we're going to put the title on you just so you can drop it to Goldberg.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy, but. All right, boys. If you're watching right now on YouTube, hang out till after the what we call that, the outro. Thank you very much.
Yes.
We're gonna look at an old poster from 2008. So for Primo, DB, I am DB. Dylan.
Yes.
Good God, we talking too much. All right, let's try this again. So for Primo, El Sombrero Verde, I am DB. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. We just passed 1.5 subscribers on YouTube. Wow, thank you guys so much. Appreciate that. Awesome stuff. So, all right, Marks Mafia, keep spreading the good word of wrestling. We'll see you next time. All right, if you're still hanging out with us on YouTube and Facebook, the poster of the pod is today's May the 18th of 2008, Judgment Day. This is the one where Triple H is in the prison outfit and he's like walking through the prison here. Man, this was like one of my favorites from like I was a big like Triple H guy during this era, but man, what happened to the good posters they used to make like this?
They went from being creative and having an imagination to making just all these like, what do they call that? A collage poster.
Collage.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
throw
with everybody on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what we were looking at
Yeah.
earlier with Money in
Yeah.
the Bank.
Yeah.
But look how cool this is,
Yeah.
man.
It's
You know, like
very
prison. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
back then, this is what, 2008? AI wasn't like it is now, so that's all definitely, they probably got a bunch of extras in there to take that picture.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not anybody.
Yeah.
It's not wrestlers. Yeah. But yeah, he was really starting to get hot during this time, and God, he was jacked to the gills, so it looks like he blew his sleeves off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah, good shit. I love old posters.
That's sick.
The best. Yeah.